Alright, just went through a run with Mord on this build, but let's jump in and take a look at an overall breakdown. His constellation, he has these only 3-star, so fairly basic, but generally when you revive an ally, you get +2/+0 and Overwhelm, so reviving your allies, just making them stronger. Generally, as long as they don't already have boosted stats when you revive them, they don't keep their boosts, so if like something already has this +2/+0 and Overwhelm, if you revive it again, it won't get another further +2, it'll just have that same +2. So just be aware of that. But also, round start, you get a 2-cost Indestructible in your hand, so this just grants an ally Deathless. If you already have an Indestructible in your hand, it just gets its cost reduced by 1. So eventually this can become free, but it is very good for sort of making sure units can get revived. Then let's take a look at Mordekaiser himself. Mordekaiser, when you play him, he kills up to 2 allies. He also has this effect: when you slay an ally, revive it. So this means any of your spells that kill your own units, you can use that to revive them as well. So this will bring them back at full health, and with his 2-star, even with the +2/+0 and Overwhelm. So killing your own units is really strong with this. That is part of why with this we were using Disciple of Shadows. This will deal damage to your own units, and it'll make it cheaper to play him out. But when you kill them with this, they just get revived, so it's not really a problem. It makes it a lot easier to play him out earlier. Other options for trying to get Mordekaiser on your board earlier: Frozen Tomb is a great option here to substitute that out. Makes it easier to get him out onto the board. You can also, something that's similar to that Disciple of Shadows, but it won't help you remove, or won't help you get him out earlier, but it'll essentially, this will deal damage to your own units and revive them. It'll also deal damage to the enemy board, so using Wicked Harvest or potentially multiple Wicked Harvests, not a problem. Can be quite strong to just remove a lot of the enemy board, and it doesn't really affect you that you're removing your own units. So a strong thing there that has a similar synergy. Mordekaiser, just in general, you're focusing on his power. When he does level up, he gets this attack for the rest of the game. When you slay a unit, drain 1 from the enemy nexus. So this is both your units and the enemy units. So slaying any unit gives you that drain. So especially if you end up with multiple copies of Mordekaiser on your board, that's why we're using Guardian Angel here. This gives you Last Breath. It gives you a new copy of him. If you also target him with Deathless, then you can get even more copies. And this will make it so every time you slay an ally, you revive. If you have like 2 copies of Mordekaiser on the board, when you slay an ally, you instead will revive 2 copies of that ally. So you can continue to duplicate Mordekaiser himself using this essentially Guardian Angel plus the Indestructible that he has from that spell that you get at the start with his constellation. So with that, you can end up with a full board of Mordekaisers, and you can make it so every time that something gets slayed, you're draining, 6 or, if you attack in with a full board of leveled up Mordekaisers, this becomes, drain 6 from the enemy nexus every single time. So that scales up quite well. Then his champion spell, also this will kill or slay your entire board, but because of, as long as you use it to target Mordekaiser, your whole board will get revived, and it'll slay the entire enemy board. So you can end up, if you have a board full of Mordekaisers, you will, clear their whole board, drain them based off how many Mordekaisers you've attacked in with, and you can do a ton of damage that way. So, and it's a really good way to keep your own Nexus extremely healthy. So, yeah, pretty good from that front. Let's see what else we can get in here. We have the Starforged just because he's Titanic. This gives us extra mana gems, just helps us play him out as well as other things earlier. There isn't really a great substitute for that. I don't have another way to get him mana gems earlier. But if you have Disciple of Shadows, if there's other things you can do to get other units out early, that can be really strong. You can also use another strong relic with him is Portal Pals, because he is an expensive unit. This goes off their base cost, gets reduced by their base cost. So this way, if you summon Mordekaiser, you can get 2 other units in your hand that are going to be quite cheap to play, really strong to use with him, especially if you have some other way of cheating him out, like this or the Frozen Tomb, as we talked about before. If you don't have other things, if you have Lux's Incandescent Baton, this can be very good with him, just making sure you can get a unit out early, especially if you're using Disciple of Shadows. Getting more units out early on will make it so you can drop Mordekaiser quicker. You often, if you are using Disciple of Shadows, will want to avoid having your units die early on, so you might prefer to take damage when the enemy attacks in and keep your units alive. That way you can get Mordekaiser out earlier and start scaling, attacking in with him and getting those life steals, and then you can get back that life that you lost when they were able to attack in early on. I normally wouldn't focus on combat relics for Mordekaiser. He's, you're mostly focusing on reviving him or getting more copies of him and using his level up power to drain. You can put things on him, but I wouldn't say any of those are particularly strong. But you can use things like Living Weapon or other things to scale him up. But generally, ideally, you'll get multiple copies of Mordekaiser, and he will potentially be dying and being revived, so any buffs that you get on him would end up being lost. Another way of getting cost reduction is, of course, Packed Powder and the Scourge's Stash. These are ways, if you have ways to attack in and deal damage, you can use these to get further cost reduction on him. This will help you get him out earlier. Typically, I would say you do want to use that Guardian Angel on him, though, both to protect him from removal as well as getting that duplication. So, yeah, I would certainly recommend using this. You can even use multiple Guardian Angels on him. Also really strong, then, you duplicate him even faster. If you are able to slay him on a regular basis, you can use something like Guardian's Orb. I wouldn't say it's particularly strong, but it is a possibility for that. It's more difficult because he's such a high cost unit, to get this to trigger regularly if you don't have some way to get him essentially out on the board early. Excuse me. And he doesn't have a way to really duplicate his different slay stuff. So finding a way to kill him if the enemy doesn't have a strong enough board is a little bit harder. You do have things like this to kill an ally and revive it, as well as this. You can kill an ally. So you have some ways to kill allies, but you don't have a ton of ways to do it. So triggering his Guardian Angel, unless the enemy has a really strong board or you're going into a particularly tough adventure, it's actually a bit more difficult to regularly slay him until you can start leveraging his, champion spell. But his champion spell also costs 10 mana unless you have some way of reducing the cost of it. So a bit more difficult to use that to, if you have multiple copies of him, to slay those. So just be aware of that. There is, let's see, if we look at his starting deck, you do have both of these guys in your starting deck. If you do use Found Fortune, it'll hit one of them. Ideally, you'd want the one where you can kill and revive. with it, but so that would mean you'd want to cut the other one from your deck. So the guy that just is like a 5/2 with Deathless, you'd want to cut him from your deck, but you can use this to sort of guarantee that you get that other one out, and then you can right away use that to slay and revive Mordekaiser, which will give you 2 copies of him from the Guardian Angel. So that can be a really strong way to get him duplicated more regularly. Then let's take a look at some more of the rare relics here. I wouldn't particularly recommend any sort of spell-based build like Archangel's Staff, Chemtech Duplicator. I don't think there's anything really strong with that. The Corrupted Star Fragment can be very good with him. This is a slay effect in a sense, so whatever unit he kills with this will get revived, and he will get their stats. So really strong way to sort of level up Mordekaiser and continue to make him just a powerhouse on your board. That can be really good. Then, let's see here. Once you have multiple Mordekaisers on the board also, you can use this to, slay the other Mordekaisers, continue to duplicate them, the ones that have the Guardian Angel, or use that Indestructible on them and further duplicate them. So, yeah, really strong way to continue that duplication effort. You can do things like on Revive, Stalker's Blade. That way, if you are duplicating him and he's being resummoned on a regular basis, you can get the strikes in there, things like that. That is something that can be effective with him. Anything where you're just attacking in and keeping him safe. He does have Challenger, so usual like Death's Foil can be really good with him. If you just want to make sure he stays alive while you're attacking in, don't want him to be removed. Same with using Stormrazor. That way you can, have him with quick attack, making sure that he's able to remove the unit he's attacking into and that he doesn't die. Yeah, that's going to be decently strong. Like I said, normally, unless you're using Corrupted Star Fragment, you're probably not focusing on just beefing up Mord, but those are certainly options there. I don't have any other particular builds I would recommend with him. You already get Overwhelm when you're reviving units, so focusing on Overwhelm isn't particularly strong with him. Voidborn Carapace can be okay if you're killing a lot of units and you want him to get just lots of different keywords, things like that. This can be alright. I wouldn't say there's any particular build around with this, though. We already talked about Wicked Harvest, potentially using that to do a lot of damage when you drop him. There's always, the Banshee's Veil or other spell shield things like the Black Shield. That'll just help you keep him safe, help keep him from being removed by spells, especially Obliterates, things like that. That'll prevent you from getting him revived. Spell Shield can always be a good addition for him. He does also have a decent amount of health, so regeneration can be a reasonable option. If you're attacking in, challenging stuff, you want to keep him alive, that can also be reasonable. So that's about it. Generally, I think Guardian Angel or multiple Guardian Angels are going to be your best bet for making him work well, and then you can just sort of slot in any of those other relics I talked about. So hope you enjoyed, and we'll catch you in the next one.